Hey, how's everybody? Richard Roy 2 here, and continuing on the conversation, the back and forth with Pre-Cambrian Lullaby, Kevin. Hello, my friend. I wanted to go over some of this. This is interesting. Me too, yeah. And I'm not a big bullet point or anything like that because I would like this to be a conversation, but if you're going to have a conversation, you're going to have to be talking to each other on the same things that you're both talking about, right? So that makes sense. Debate versus conversation. That's an interesting thing, you know. It's often one of those things that's very difficult for a lot of people to overcome, and I don't know why we tend to do that, but if you think about debate versus conversation, conversation is an exchange. You and I are discussing things back and forth. We're not saying I'm right and you're wrong. And to me, debate is that kind of thing, isn't it? You're right, you're wrong, I'm right. I'm trying to prove that my points are more valid than yours. I'm a little bit off on that sort of thing. I like listening to other people's ideas because I don't know that I am right. And to be, I don't know, is it pretentious to say that you're wrong and I'm right? Is it not possible that you might be right? Or that we might both be right for ourselves in the particular context, because not everything is necessarily or does necessarily have to be through this funnel into this pathway. This is the only way you can do things. I mean, true, there are things that are, you know, absolute. We can't exist very long without oxygen, can we? We gotta breathe. You know, there's that aspect of right and wrong. You know, deprive somebody of oxygen, stick them underwater, and expect them to live for any length of time, as opposed to I choose to be a truck driver, that person chooses to be a broom sweeper, the other person chooses to be a psychological analyst. You know, there's all these different options, variations, choices. So one of the things I find we seem to have a little bit of a problem with is distinguishing which things actually are choices and which things we have no choice about. We have to eat, we have to breathe, we have to coexist, don't we? If we don't coexist, we aren't coexisting, are we? The idea of everybody getting into a fight with each other, you know, everybody's got to follow me. No, everybody's got to follow me. No, everybody's got to follow me, sort of thing. And you know, do we really have to follow each other, or can we not just? Can't we just all get along? I find that a fascinating thing. We seem to be brought up in our schools with these competitions and sports and stuff. You know, it's funny because when I was in school, they had the various sports and whatnot, and I tried going into, what was it, soccer? Yeah, I think I played soccer for a bit, just a bit. I kind of bowed out because they put me in the net and I was doing goalie shit and people were cheering me, and I find I'm uncomfortable with that kind of attention, and I just had to bow out. Now, gymnastics I kind of enjoyed. That was fun. It was just a single person, and I guess everybody else being in competition instead of it being the team sort of thing, you don't get that kind of cheering thing you do when you're in a team sport. So maybe like I say, I don't think I'll ever be a famous person when it comes down to it because I just shy away. I just bow out. I can do my thing. I can have fun. I like doing this stuff here. If anybody ever takes notice of it and finds anything of value in it, great. I really feel good about that. Not in the sense that I'm good, I really did so, but in the sense that I hope I help move things along in some positive direction, you know. And most of the stuff that I pick up are from, it's from other people. I mean, I'm no big genius or anything. I start to ask the questions, and once you get over the point of people laughing at you, or start to zero in on the aspect of people trying to denigrate you, and start to see it as only one perspective, as opposed to the many perspectives that there can be, you can start to look and, you know, point out that, hey, you know, this is not that strange. I'm not so strange for asking these questions as you may think. And the variations that people have with YouTube. YouTube is a splendid medium, I find, because there are so many possibilities that you can do the education or the entertainment, and they even have categories listed on there. People in blogs is very different from entertainment or comedy or education or science, philosophy. I'm not even sure. I think they got religion in there and philosophy. I'm not sure. I may be mistaken about that, but I remember noticing something was missing for some reason. I may have been looking for it at one time. And those people who try to point out flaws in your presentation and try to say, why don't you do it this way? You'd get much more subscribers. I'm not interested in more subscribers. I'm interested in discussion. I like discussion. I've already said that. The constructive criticism, as you said, it is valid. It does have its points, but as you say, the person is not really paying attention to looking at. They're looking at it from their perspective, and that's, as you say, it is valid. All you people watching this right now, I have no issues with you with valid criticisms and whatnot. This is a discussion. I like discussion, and I like to hear people's ideas and thoughts if they have anything that I miss. I mean, I don't have everything under the sun. I happened to bump into Kevin, who was expressing something at some time. I can't remember what, but it's every one of his videos I find particularly fascinating in the way that he expresses his ideas. But if you can, and yes, everyone is a Greek. A Greek. A geek. Must be the beer, right? Honestly, I don't like getting drunk, so I just drink it for the taste. Yeah, everyone is a geek in their own right, in their own particular point and perspective. Why is this the level of interaction you choose? Now, I don't think you were asking me that question, but you were asking it of the people who come to you, to your videos, with that query, with that, you should do it this way, like you're supposed to bend to their whims. I'm not here to bend to other people's whims, or wishes, or ideas, or ideals. I'm not here to bend to them, but people do influence me. People do have valid things to say. And sometimes it's interesting just listening to somebody to get an idea of, I didn't think I said that. Where did they see this? And, you know, again, it's interesting because we do have those, and you can see that in people. They do have these different perspectives, and they look at things, and they see them in their own context of knowledge, in their own context of their own life, and they react to it that way, given that. And I've done it too. I'm no Mr. Innocent here. I've watched videos and then gone on to another video, and I'm responding to the other video still being affected by the video before. So, and I've apologized for that on occasion. Sorry, I made a boo-boo. But, why is this a level of interaction that I choose? Well, you and I, Kevin, I think we know why we choose this level of interaction. You're an explorer. You've said it many times. Exploring is the most entertainment. It's exciting. Just hearing somebody's idea of something, it's different from what everybody else does. And I've loved this aspect of YouTube because people have questioned things that many of us in our social structure, our what do they call it, culture, we are given to accept things in our culture without question from very, very early in ages. And we tend to forget about them afterwards, and they become part of our makeup, and we automatically respond in lieu of those connections. So when I come across videos that actually take up and challenge those things, those old things that we've long ago accepted by sublimation, I find it fascinating. On those sense, oh, wait a minute, yeah. Oh, you were doing another video there on marriage, and that is a great topic to question, a great issue to look at. And I'm probably going to do another video on that that one there. I really loved it. Meatloaf. Sorry. I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. I love that phraseology. It's so nice. I won't do that. Well, what is that? What's wrong with it? Okay. Just a fucking YouTuber. Yeah, I'm just a fucking YouTuber. Well, buddy, move over. It's a very broad bench that we sit on. We're all just fucking YouTubers. You know, exploring the idea of editing and not editing a video. I enjoy that free flow, that ums and ahs. It's part of the personality, you know. I add my little things in here that sometimes aren't the ums, and it might be the say things like what have you, or whatever, you know, all these little fillers that we put in to try to make it sound like we're actually thinking and processing things. And yes, exploring, that's the whole thing. You know, this is something that I found interesting, the aspect of exploring. I've been thinking about what is the meaning of life. We've talked about that before. Everybody's talked about that before. At least I would expect everyone has. I hope that everybody has. I think anybody should come to that point of questioning what's the point, you know. What's the point? That's why I love the topic of suicide too. It's fascinating to me. And not in the sense that I want people to commit suicide, but I think it brings you close to that, well, that borderline between life and death. And that's it, isn't it? I mean, if you talk about having a purpose to life, wouldn't we also be just as validated to say, well, what's the point of existence? You know, it's one thing to say, what's the meaning of my life? What's the meaning of this rock? What purpose does it fill? I mean, they talk about God and having purpose to everything. Well, you know, what is this supposed to do? The issue of 42. Well, I was curious that you brought that up because recently I've been thinking about 42 equals, and probably because I watched your video before and I was going along driving and thinking about it. And 42 equals comparison. 42 equals comparison. What is the meaning of life? What is life? What is, and maybe that's what I'm more pointing at. What is life? Life is comparison. Everything we do revolves around comparison. Everything that exists in relationship to something else. It doesn't exist alone. And everything is influenced by everything within its influence sphere. That fascinates me. And everything we do, from the start, from when we're born. Now again, I'm going from my own personal interpretation and view of things, and thinking about my childhood growing up, and I remember learning to focus my eyes. At least that's what I think I remember. And opening my eyes into a bright room, it was very fuzzy. Interesting thing, focusing the eyes, is rather simple, isn't it? Because basically you have something that's in focus, and something that's out of focus, and something that's out of focus. So the thing that's different is the thing that's in focus. So you tend to make your eyes go into that focal point where everything becomes sharp, as opposed to a blur or a blur. And I remember opening my eyes and seeing bright, and then being able to distinguish, finding a line in the distance. It was a room, you know, from my own interpretation now, I'd say I was looking at the corner of the point where the ceiling and the wall met, and one was yellow and one was white, I think, I remember. And it was when that came into sharp focus that I could see those things, and I started to look along and follow it along and look at different things and start to change my focus, and seeing a light beam coming in from a window and noticing that there were tiny little flecks that were kind of floating down through the light beam that only became visible when they came into the light beam and sparkled down. It was a fascinating thing for me, and I've been able to remember that quite well for some reason. It was one of those episodes that came with me through my life. And there's other ones too that come back to me. But that idea of comparison, comparing what is in focus to what is out of focus. And when you put your hands up, you can imagine a child doing this, putting your hands up and seeing these blurs, and then they come into sharp distinction and lines. And then when they touch each other, then you notice that the combination of the visual and the sense of tactile sensation, and you see where a child is learning all these controls of their own existence and their own life. And I found that really fascinating and thinking about it. And one of the reasons I've thought about these things is some old might have been Outer Limits or Twilight Zone. I think it was Outer Limits show, a black and white one, where this guy makes this robot, and this robot has to learn It doesn't know anything. It's crawling around on the floor and it's learning how to, everything that we do, just like a baby, just like a person growing up. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's probably the issue that was required in order to have artificial intelligence convert over to actual intelligence. If something is able to learn and have a motive. And that's another thing that's interesting that fascinates me, is the idea of having motive for living, motive for learning, motive for existing. You know, from a baby, what's a baby's motive? What's its determining, what drives it? You know, this is the thing that ever since that movie, or show, the Outer Limits, with that robot, I thought about that for a long time. And I'm a slow thinker, so I'm sorry if I'm not the brilliant scientist that some people are with a lot of the things. Anyways, I thought that was amazing, the idea that the difference between artificial intelligence and actual intelligence is that actual intelligence has to go through the process of grasping it all and experiencing it. Again, we come back to that point of existence in life. Now, you know that this, as far as we know, has no capacity for experience, memory, or anything like that. And then there's various levels of life. Some are simple amoeba, a single-celled animal with no brain. You know, what drives it? It's simply one of those cause and effect things. And then you go on up and the complexity increases and it starts to get various abilities to interact with its environment and actually receive information from its environment. Where am I going with this? I think I just ran off on a tangent. I do that a lot. My mind starts wandering off. I don't think you're the type of person that minds that much. Just a fucking you. Editing, unediting. Editing, yeah, I can see the point. I can see the point of editing things down so that they don't have to take up too much time. Again, I'm not going to edit this. It's just going to go up as it is. And I do some work that's edited, and I will be doing something else that's going to be edited. Bullet points, I have no problem with bullet points. Well, like I say, I got bullet points on this thing because it's very difficult to keep track of things, and I will allow myself to go off on tangents too. Bullet points are fine for a kind of a general guide if you lose your way. I'll look back on that and realize, where were they going? Let's see, is there anything else I can do? Oh, look at that! So I like going off that way too. The interpretation is impressively unique. Thanks, I appreciate that. Talking about doing what I did with Raccoon Mom. What did I want? What did I want when it came down to doing that with Raccoon Mom? I have this fascination with other consciousnesses. It drives me crazy, and I don't mean crazy in the sense of nuts. I mean in the sense that it's amazing what you can interact with. I mean, even down to the insect level, you can interact on some level, and some levels are not necessarily as satisfying as the higher up levels, but I still find them fascinating. That's what I was looking for in Raccoon Mom. Could I communicate? Could we see each other? I mean, it's not just a matter of me seeing Raccoon Mom. It's a matter of Raccoon Mom seeing me and my intent. You know, there was a point in there where when I mentioned that she took my thumb in her mouth, and I had said that I thought that she was trying to test me to see if I was going to hurt her and do it on her own terms. But I thought about that again, and there was something actually, you know, that people say, oh, it's just a show, but Star Trek, you know, the one where they had those things that bore through rock, and that one that put a message, hurt not I, and there's something to that effect. But basically the question that Captain Kirk had asked was that promise not to hurt us, or a request that we don't hurt it? It may have been the same thing, two messages once, and maybe that's what Raccoon Mom was doing. She put her thumb on my thumb in her mouth, and maybe she was trying to tell me that she wouldn't hurt me. Just a thought. It's an interpretation. What can we do? We gotta take some sort of interpretation from it, don't we? We could always say, oh, it's just a dumb animal. It's just doing defensive survival bullshit. Yeah, you know, if you want to, if that works for you, if you can live with that, okay. I think you're missing something. Really, I think you're missing something. I just thought it was a beautiful thing. The ladies' cleavage is a personal example. I love that. and the complimenting the obvious. I mean, you said you saw this lady, and she was putting herself on display. And there are people who would put that down. And I find that really odd. Now, at one time I might have agreed with that, but now I see this and I say, yes, she is. I mean, I wear the hats, I shave, I you know, I'm putting myself on display. I'm you know, I feel good about myself. I go out there, I present myself, and I notice people noticing me, and that's the thing, isn't it? Complimenting the obvious. But a lot of people, surprisingly, don't take notice, I find. They don't seem to see what seems to be so obvious. Like when Raccoon Mom grabbed my thumb, maybe people would have shrieked and ripped their hand out of the raccoon's mouth. But it's gonna bite me! Like I've heard some people say about the dog that's just... well, my Gertrude, when she met people, she loved people. And she'd meet someone and she'd go into this trumpeting, ooh! And she has such a deep voice that some people will think it's a growl, and they get scared and they back away. But again, interpretation. You don't read the whole body language of these animals. All of us, we have this body language, and animals really impress me with how much they try, in spite of the way people abuse them and misuse them, misinterpret them. They still try. I gotta give them credit. That's what I wanted. I wanted Raccoon Mom to be comfortable. And I wanted to have an exchange. I wanted to relate. And that's something that you noticed this woman was doing. And you picked it off and you said what you said. And the other fellows that think that they might have got a slap, and maybe they would have, depending on how they presented it too, and it depends on how you present it too. But that's beautiful, you know. Your breasts are looking very nice today. Oh, that was brilliant. And saying only you could get away with saying shit like that. Oh, I love it. The superpower, and that's what. Again, that superpower. Just your presence, just your conscious presence, just to be there. And to take note, and to acknowledge another presence. Is that too much to ask for? I think that is a superpower. You'd probably be great with animals too. I mean, you do seem to do fine with the human animals, right? Well, except that one time you spoke about the guy who almost got into fist fights with them. Well, you know, we all get into that. People are going to interpret, aren't they? Yeah, we're all going to interpret. Scripts, reading versus memorized. We talked about doing the poetry, and a lot of times it's memorizing things and then reciting it. That's a little different from scripts, I think, because scripts basically you're reading it, and reading it as though you were actually thinking it at the time. I'm terrible with that. I'm like, did you know that you should blah 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 blah. Doesn't work so good. It gets a little bit more mechanical, so I basically go off the cuff a lot of times. I have memorized a poem. Of course, my fascination with suicide ought to direct you to where I'd go. Of course, is going to be Shakespeare's "To Be or Not to Be." I find it a fascinating poem. Anyways, soliloquy, they call it. And yeah, exploring life. I got a kick out of your pulling your beard. I do that so much now. I guess I don't have the hair up here, so I can't go like this or anything, right? I leave mud marks on my head or something like that if I do that. But I know what you're doing. Does that help you think? It helps me, you know. Or it distracts people while I'm thinking. You said you know yourself watching your own videos. Yeah, I guess that would be a good indication that it might need a little bit of editing. I spoke of the cost versus gain in presenting these or taking actions of any kind. Yeah, there's that cost versus gain. You could make that mistake and it could cost you a lot, or it could gain you a lot depending on what you learned from it, couldn't it? I'm sure, as I said, a lot of people would probably expect to be slapped at the comment you made at the lady. And I thought it was actually a nice thing to say. When I think of it and I look at people out there, a lot of times they're wearing things that make them stand out, and I think they're doing it because they like to, maybe they like to matter. Maybe. I mean, I do various things in order to feel good about myself, and I like to be able to look at myself. Of course, when I'm out in the truck, I don't see myself very often. I don't have a mirror in there, so I'll get unshaven over a period of time and get a little smelly. But I have a poor sense of smell, so I can survive. And there's no other occupants in the truck. But we do have the option of stopping and showering periodically. Anyways, the end game. No, I don't buy that idea. End game. I don't think there is any. I guess I've gotten into you know, since I despise the God in the Bible, and I've had a great deal of hostility, I've been able to alleviate that a little bit by saying that I can make a better God than that. And I've decided that we are the creators, the actual creators. The gods are just mere gods. They're our creations. They don't really make much in existence. They can have a powerful influence on those people who don't take the, you know, the bull by the horns and create their own gods. But I've been reading some interesting fiction that kind of shadows my thinking in that respect. It's rather interesting. I think we're much better creating our own gods. You know, I remember you were talking about. Remember, was it Harvey the Rabbit? The James Stewart, the big friend, the rabbit, and you asked, "What's wrong with that? person is not harming anybody and it helps them get on in life, what's wrong with that? And I agree. I think there's nothing wrong with that. And I started to think, well, I can create my own. And I started to create various aspects of myself. Well, you know I'm into dragons, right? I've made that painfully obvious enough. Well, I thought I'd share a little bit of something with you. I've been collecting dragons, and I've found some supplier who's exhibited some really brilliant dragons. I really love them. Now, this one here that I'm going to show you is not my favorite, but I do like him, or her. I don't know which. Could be, well, for all I know, it might be a him and a her. But I named this one Crack. It's an ice dragon. Ice dragon. Or, no, snow dragon, I think they call it. But looking at it, I think of ice. So I've named him Crack. I don't know how well that shows up. He is really amazingly beautiful. And like I say, he's not the most beautiful. He's not my favorite. And maybe someday I'll get into the reasons why I've decided to call him Crack. He's a representation of somebody. But there's several other dragons. One of them, his name is Disdain, who represents an element of myself. Another one's name is Dylan, another aspect of myself. Another one's name is, well, there's Copy. He's another one who's actually, I don't have a statue of. I actually designed and created him myself. He's actually a part of a story. Disdain. Oh yeah, there's Disdain and Dylan and Fortune. 3 dragons that are friends, and these are stories that I make up about them. They're figments of my own imagination. I mean, if people are going to be silly enough to be gods, why not make dragons too? I can have my own personalities and existence and stories and whatnot in them, and I use them to express things. I try to write stories with them. It's fun. I got one other little one here that I just got. I really like this cute little guy. It's a baby dragon just hatched, and I haven't given him a name because he's supposed to be a gift for somebody. I screwed up this one. Badly. Okay, let's see what I can do here. They're actually supposed to be birthstone type of representations. Yeah, isn't that the cutest thing you ever saw? Or he's still in a shell. He or she. Quite beautiful. I'm a little disappointed with the attachment of the wings, though. Not as well as I've seen some of the other ones, like Crack I just showed you. His wings attachment. Perfect. Brilliant detail on that. Anyways, I just thought I'd share that one with you for now. Someday I'll... Disdain, Dylan, and Fortune are living with my nephew right now. Dylan is still my favorite. I'll have to show you him sometime. Probably gonna have to edit this. Anyways. I didn't intend on showing you that, I just took the time to do it. Anyways, maybe I'll edit part of that out. Anyways. Life is its own point. Yeah, I tend to follow along those lines. And I think you're right. It's a vague question. It's a strange question. because when it comes down to it, like I say, you ask this guy what the meaning of life is. How about just the meaning of existence? There's no meaning. There's just existence. You know, I really like that movie, Tombstone, with, who was in that? Oh, here I go with my damn memory again. If you ever get a chance to see it, you should watch it. The guy who plays Val Kilmer, he plays Doc Holliday, and him and Wyatt Earp at the end there. Val Kilmer asks, "What do you want in life?" And Doc Holliday asks, "What do you want in life?" And Wyatt Earp says, "I don't know, just have a normal life." And Doc Holliday says, "There is no normal, it's just life, now get on with it." So there is no meaning to life, just make one, you know, create it. The end game? Well, maybe there is, I don't know. There's been talk about things like universal consciousness and whatnot. You had even mentioned one time the idea that, well, consciousness is not contained within the whole body, and yet the whole body, how do you put it? You are conscious. So if the body is part of the consciousness is contained within the body, then and the body and the consciousness are both contained within the universe, then you could say just as validly that the body is conscious as you could say that the universe was conscious. So is there that? I don't know, but it's intriguing thought. I thought it was interesting, the idea that all the little things that we put together, all the things in our own little minds that we do, we get together to form networks, like you and I are here, forming an extension of that part of that consciousness. How far that's going to go, I'll leave that to the future, I guess. Anyways, thank you so much for your response. I really enjoyed that, unedited and everything. Look forward to more conversation. Thanks a lot, Kevin. Talk to you later, and all my YouTube subscribers, thank you so much for bearing with me through this. I hope you find some measure of value in it, and if you have anything to contribute, by all means, I'd be willing to listen. Like I say, I like this sort of interaction. This is, to me, what is very valuable in YouTube. Anyways, ta-ta for now, or blab on, ramble on, take up all the time. Take care. Bye for now.